Hey, Brian from SnakeBytes here. There are reptile lovers out there that aren't necessarily within the reptile hobby. And today we have a cool celebrity chef visitor named Jason Quinn, who's been on FoodNetworks Chopped, the great food truck race, and now has a show on MTV called Snack Off. You're watching SnakeBytes. So Jason flew in last night. We spent a couple hours frolicking around the collection, and he's really on a quest to figure out what he wants to add to his collection. So Jason, after seeing some stuff, what were the animals that you really let's just hit a few.
Well, when I came out here, my first interest was rainbows, Brazilian specifically, and you have such a nice collection. I think they're just so beautiful, and man, what a great specimen.
Yeah, and I think you said something about, your wife wanted me to talk you out of.
Yeah, that's what she wants. So I don't know that it's going to happen.
I hate to tell you, you're going to be mad at me, Hillary, because I'm going the opposite direction here. But yeah, Brazilians are one of those animals that I always say, they're not a beginner snake because as babies, they need a little more care, but just really in humidity. Once they get past that baby stage, they're a lot more bulletproof. But at the same time, this is an adult female here. I mean, they could get a little larger, but that's pretty much as big as you're gonna get. You can see they're super placid, obviously beautiful animals.
That's amazing. And when you said something just now, it triggered me. I was kind of thinking like I was watching at home. You said the babies need a little bit more. Tell me about it. I mean, this is something I'm gonna own. I want to know, how often are you spraying them? If that's the real thing. What's the bedding that keeps in the humidity better?
We keep cypress mulch on these guys, and you can keep like cocoa fiber, and you can even keep something as simple as like paper if you want, but then have a moist box. So have a hide box with a hole cut in it with sphagnum moss, damp sphagnum moss. As a matter of fact, a lot of our babies will actually put little sphagnum in even with the cypress mulch, because we want to keep that humidity up at
90%, right?
80–90%, because the problem is they dehydrate really quick as babies, and just literally, I'm not kidding you, 1 or 2 days without water or humidity, and the animal will shrivel up and potentially even perish. So,
if you had a nice big water bowl, is that something that they would submerge themselves in, and is that going to be sufficient, or you gotta keep it really moist?
It's funny. It should be good, and I would say 90% of the time it's going to be perfect. But every now and then you get one of these weird animals that dehydrates with a full bowl of water right next to it. So, and by the way, while we're looking at rainbows, I got to show you this one. This is just an absolute stunner here. Ooh, it's a little bit feisty though. Look at the contrast between those guys. This is actually a hypomelanistic. And again, this is a recessive mutation. That's just basically lacking most of the melanin. Not all of the melanin, so it's not albino, but it's hypomelanistic.
That is just so stunning. It feels like a completely different animal. It
does just look like a faded animal, but it's incredible.
Whereas that one is red, this one is orange, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean if you had never seen a snake before and you saw that crawling around and you were hanging out in the animal, you couldn't imagine how beautiful. You'd be like, nature is amazing.
I still feel that way.
Yeah, well, I still feel that way. But at least we've seen them. And I always say, it's almost like paintbrushing. It's like someone painted this animal. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more incredible pattern. And so their first choice was amazing. So we know you love rainbows. What's next?
Womas.
Many cultures eat reptiles. What type of reptile is the most threatened by human consumption? A, snakes, B, turtles, or C, lizards? Go ahead and answer in the comments down below and check back later in the show to see if you have the right answer. In this week's Reptile Report Spotlight, we'll be highlighting colubrids. Go ahead and check out the URL down below or click on the link in the description. Well, you definitely picked a good second snake to check out, man. I am a huge Woma fan. I've talked about it so many times, how I love him to death. But I found it interesting. You actually are really more of a black-headed python fan.
Right? I got to tell you, I told you a couple hours ago, but the little black dots on top of the head, I thought those were their eyes. I just couldn't take them seriously. I'm like, what a bunch of clowns. And where the blackhead's like, they're wearing that big sock, but damn, they look so cool. And then I looked up close and, it's a badass looking python. It's just a beautiful animal, super tame. And, you said this is about as big as it's going to get.
Yeah, they can get slightly larger. But yeah,
totally manageable. And just stunning and nice. I mean, who wouldn't like this animal?
I'm telling you, the personalities, I've always said, you know, I know some people have a hard time believing that snakes have a lot of different personalities, but they do. I mean, these guys, you can just see, look how inquisitive it is. It's looking around, it's trying to figure things out, it's testing the air, it's not afraid of my hand movement, it's not moving at it like I'm gonna bite this guy. It's almost like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on here, you know? And some snakes, if I went like this, it would be striking at me immediately, and you can just see how placid they are. And that's why I think Woma pythons are such great pet snakes, and I wish they were more available.
Yeah.
Because this is the type of snake that if an 8 or a 10-year-old came to me and said, what would be a great pet snake, I'd say a Woma python.
Especially if you want something bigger than a ball.
Right.
You know, because this is, and this is so much more exciting to work with just because it does have a personality, and it's wanting to, it has an idea of what it wants to do at least.
All right, so what's next? What's the other snake that you're in love with?
Probably hogs.
Hognose.
Let's
All
go
right,
to hogs. So longtime viewers of Snake Bites will know that this is the colubrid room, and if you're going to get bit by something, you know, a lot of people say this is a great place to get bit, you know, what's going to hurt you here? But I got to tell you, I got absolutely crushed earlier by a snake in here, and I'm kind of embarrassed to show you what it is, but...
No, slow down now. Be careful. This is dangerous.
I'm nervous to face it again, you know?
Medic. Medic. Oh.
Come on. It is this little bugger right here.
Whew.
This little paradox albino.
What a beauty.
Just trying to crush me again, I think. Really, of all the snakes here, this is the only one that got me, you know?
That was the #1 bite. But the good news is we have a long day left.
Yeah, I know, right? There's still lots of time left in the day.
So hognose are definitely probably one of the more unique colubrids, you know, their personalities. And I've always said that when you own one hognose, you're going to be a hognose lover forever. Now this happens to be a toffee hognose or a toffee belly hognose. And again, that's a recessive mutation. And you can see that kind of toffee look on the belly. And basically what it is it's a form of hypomelanism. It's lacking some of the black pigment, but not an albino.
And you know, it's crazy because I've seen a lot about hognose. I really think that, you know, you said earlier, I asked, what's the next ball python? And I wouldn't be surprised if this is that answer. I mean, the morphs are amazing. There's enough diversity. And what a fun snake to hold. It's just trying to, like, burrow into you, you know? But to be honest with you, I know they're rear fang venomous, but not really anything we have to worry about. I know that they consume their prey just live like that. But other than that, I don't really know anything about it.
Well, it's like you said, a couple things. #1, I've always said that, you know, hognose are kind of the ball python of the colubrid world. You know, I mean, they have all those tangibles. They're big but not too big. They're really placid. They're polymorphic. They have lots of paint jobs and meaning. They're just a very unique animal, and they have everything that you need to be a successful mutation of animal. When it comes to the rear fang part, they have like a real primitive delivery system of like a specialized saliva. You know,
yeah, I imagine if they're eating something live, they gotta make it tone down a little bit.
Exactly. I mean, when they're getting a toad, you know, yeah, they gotta, you know, have something that does. Now, I tell you, it's something you have to be aware of, but it's vast majority of people will have no reaction to a bite. Now, the best part is it's very rare to get bit.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones that are huffing and puffing, they just kind of want to.
Yeah, they bluff. You know, they bluff. They strike with their mouth shut. The only time you're ever really going to get bit is when you're feeding and it accidentally thinks that your pinky or your thumb is a food item. That's it. Other than that, with hoggies, you know, they're really prolific animals. You know, an animal, this is a
How many clutches a year you were telling me?
You can have 3, maybe even 4 clutches a year. And a girl this size is going to have anywhere from, you know, 12 to 20 eggs, you know, because the eggs are kind of small. What's interesting also is the eggs are not nearly as calcified as a normal colubrid egg. They're real squishy and a little more delicate, very thin membrane thing. And you do have to be careful because if you don't get that clutch of eggs out, females will eat their eggs. They're sexually dimorphic as well. So here's a female that's a, you know, an okay sized female, and there's the male. I mean, you can see the difference.
That's incredible.
I mean, this is an adult male here. I mean, this is it. So males, well, what's interesting about males is that once they hit adult size, which is about this size here, sometimes they'll only eat 4 times a year.
Really? That's it?
That's it. You know, they'll 4, maybe 5 times a year, and that's it.
And that's something that, I mean, I imagine at the beginning was a little concerning.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You never want an animal to come out of hibernation, eat once, and then not eat again for 4 months.
Yeah.
You know, because you're like, oh my gosh, you've eaten 1 time in the last 6 months.
But they can handle it.
That's just the way they are. They don't expend a lot of energy.
And definitely to me, like you see the name anaconda, and I'm thinking, what the hell's an anaconda hognose? And it wasn't until I really saw this one and understood its pattern that when you see the anaconda, you realize, oh, it does actually look like a...
Yeah, and let's take a look really quick at a couple anacondas, which you're talking about. Now basically the anaconda gene is a co-dominant gene, so this would be considered a normal anaconda. And just like you were saying, the pattern between a normal and this just looks more like an anaconda, like a green anaconda. You've got the little dots. Again, you can see that bluff right there. It's just gonna come up and it's gonna bluff. You notice how when it struck, it didn't even open its mouth? That's just the way they are, and they puff up and they kind of hood up like a cobra, but they're never gonna, they bluff bite. Yeah. But again, these dots are kind of like an anaconda. Now again, the super anaconda is just essentially an anaconda to an anaconda, and it's gonna be just missing all of the pattern.
So it almost looks like titanium, platinum, that kind of just all smooth one color, But that's just amazing. Well, I know that my favorite one of these I saw was that pastel pink albino anaconda.
Oh yeah, let's go take a look. That's it.
So for me, this is the pinnacle of your hog collection. It's got that pink albino, the anaconda. It's just stunning. It's just.
Well, they're so polymorphic. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's so many amazing paint jobs to be had, and it's really endless. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of potential combinations, and that's what makes it exciting too, right? Yeah. I mean, they're great animals. They're fun to work with. They breed really cool, and you just never know what's going to hatch out of those eggs.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine the first person who got one of these to come out, and you sit there and look at it and you're like, all right, well, this is probably worth a few dollars.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that the first albino ever produced was from a guy named Rich Evans, and if I'm not mistaken, he ended up having an animal come into his pet shop. He owned a pet shop. He's down in Lubbock, Texas, and they actually found the albino on a golf course, believe it or not, is what I heard.
Wow.
And they brought it to him, and I think and I don't know for sure, but I think they just gave it to him, like, hey, we found this weird snake, have this.
That's a nice come up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we bought one of the first albinos he ever produced and sold, and we've been kind of addicted to hognose ever since. All right, next up, carpet pythons. You kind of had this when you first came in. You asked about carpet pythons, so now that you had a chance to mess with them, what do you think?
I mean, I had a big, huge 7-foot male jungle carpet in college, and I loved him. It was awesome. And I kind of was like, all right, I've done that. Right. I got to do something else. And then I see these two screamers, and it's like, I can't even believe my eyes. The diamond and the albino. Who doesn't find this beautiful? Like, I just.
Well,
I don't understand.
Diamond pythons have always been one of my favorite snakes. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I remember seeing a picture of a diamond python in a book, and I was just like, oh my God. And as remember, we were just talking a little bit ago about the fact that they're just kind of naturally tame too. I mean, I've never ever been bit by a diamond python. I've been bit by plenty of carpet pythons, but diamond pythons I've never been bit. Even when we found the wild one down in Australia, I mean, just puppy dog tame. I mean, just right out of the wild, just can pick it up no problem. And that's not to say they can't bite, but diamonds
I'm sure they can.
Yeah, diamonds just seem to be more placid, and I mean, that's a great example of a diamond. And then obviously the albinos have been something that have been coming out here over the last 5 or 6 years. People have been breeding them here, and there's so many paint jobs and carpets that make them good. But again, they're a sizable animal. Like you were saying, they get 7 foot or so they're a bigger animal.
And a decent size around too.
So they're not something that you're going to keep in a 20-gallon aquarium in your room. If you're looking for that need, carpets are not what you want to go for. But if you have a nice size arboreal cage, they're amazing animals. So my mission here was to really find the perfect snake for Jason that his wife would really enjoy as well, and I think we found a winner.
Is it okay?
So obviously, whoever comes to visit has to see my girl Sunshine. She's one of my most prized animals. I mean, just super placid, amazing animal. But Jason, we're starting to get to know a little bit about your interest in snakes and something like that. But you have an incredible job, really. One of those jobs where, just like me, when people find out I breed snakes for a living, they're so inquisitive. And I don't think that there's many people out there that haven't at some point in their life thought, wouldn't it be cool to own a restaurant? So tell me about that.
I mean, it's amazing. I told you yesterday that we're in the pleasure business. That's our job. We have to give you great drinks, great service, great food, and overall, if you leave happier than when you got there, we did our job. And it's great. the hard part is, you know, you really do have to like people because some people, I don't know if you're out there, but some people are just terrible. They're impossible to please. And you know, we pour our heart and souls, and just like what you're doing, where passion meets obsession, you just want the best. You want the best animals, you want the best for their health, you want the best for your customers, and we're the same way. We use the best ingredients, we try to use the best techniques, and at the end of the day, we want to be the best food that anyone's ever had. So when that's your goal, it's so hard when you spend every second doing that, and then someone goes, yeah, it was okay. And you're like, what? Come on, man, I'm bleeding here. I'm just trying as hard as I can to do my best, and you know, for some people it's never going to be good enough.
No, and that's the way it is. But you know, and I've got to tell you, I was pretty excited when you were going to come out because I'm a huge Chopped fan on the Food Network. So obviously you're not only a restaurateur, but you're also becoming a TV celebrity. You did Chopped, you won the Great Food Race, and now even you have a new show coming out on MTV called Snack Off, right?
Well, Rob Dyrdek is the executive producer and the visionary behind it and whatnot, and it was great to work with him. I mean, such an energetic dude who's just so focused on success, and so it's great to even be in the same room as him.
You know, and this is the whole thing is that, you know, not only am I excited to have you here because you're a passionate reptile guy, but I really think that our hobby, reptile hobby, needs guys like you that are going to have mainstream exposure from MTV and Food Network and your restaurants, and here you are, you know, passionately talking about how you love these reptiles. And that's what's exciting to me is that, you know, I'm around reptile people all the time, and that's great, but to be around, you know, people that are successful in their walk of life that aren't reptiles, that are still willing to put their neck out, because there's a lot of celebrities out there that love reptiles, but they don't want to go to bat for them, and I'm really appreciative that you're willing to do that.
I mean, for me, you know, it was a situation where I was wanting to talk about it all day, and none of my cooks, none of my employees, you know, you say something like, I don't know what that is, that's some sort of weird animal. You know? Yeah, but it's so awesome, you know, and after, you know, a couple months of trying to talk to people and getting fed up, I'm like, I'm calling Brian. And so, you know, and then now we're here holding a beautiful albino berm, and, you know, life is good. No.
Absolutely, and your wife is gonna love this animal. Okay, so on to Honduran milk snakes. You're holding, obviously, a tangerine albino, one of my favorite Honduran milk snakes. Yeah, it's, that exact girl is probably my favorite Honduran, and of course this is just the normal tangerine phase, and as you can see, I mean, this is a big 6-foot girl. I mean, she's a monster, and that's one of the things that's really cool about the Hondurans is that they get really large.
Yeah, it's just so cool to see the difference between these two snakes right there, just that either black or white, your choice, you know. Now, how many generations do you think it took you to get here?
Well, you know, this particular animal, I know because I produced this animal, it took me about 4 generations to get there, but you got to remember, I was probably 2 generations into the tangerine part before, so probably before the albino ever got introduced, we're probably about 6 generations into that animal.
And now, in terms of time, you know, I'm not exactly sure how long it takes for these to be sexually mature. What does it take to line breed something like this? I mean, I think a lot of people watching the show are thinking to themselves, like, I would love to grab, you know, just have the most orange Honduran milk snake or whatever. What kind of time is this? You know, 6 generations, that can't be quick.
It's minimum 2 years per generation. Minimum 2 years. So you're looking at, if you're going to go from something like this to that, you're probably looking at, you know, on the early side 8 years, on the long side 10 or 12 years. You know, and again, we're in better shape now because we already have those genetic components. You can buy this snake. You can buy a snake that looks very similar to it, whatever it may be, whereas you're not starting from scratch anymore. But if you do see some trait, let's say we see a new trait, you know, like let's say for some reason you wanted to go with an almost all black snake, you know, or something like that, so you wanted to breed more black instead of less black, that might take you 10 or 12 years. And of course, there is a snake that's very similar to a Honduran called a black milk snake. It's a gauge eye, and it's a solid black snake, you know, a solid black milk snake. And you know, that's probably kind of through evolution what happened. You know, is what happened was they came from an area that the melanin helped them absorb the sun, so the darkest animals thrived the most, so the darker animals bred with the darker animals and continued to get darker and darker and darker until eventually they produced a solid black milk snake.
That's pretty fascinating that nature did it on its own for you.
Exactly, yeah, it's a lot easier to let Mother Nature do it. but you're not going to find something like this in the wild because again,
yeah, it's amazing.
I got to show you these guys. I just, you know, every time I think of a cool colubrid, I think of a rhino rat snake, and it's just such a, to me that's a cartoon character of a snake. You know what I mean? It's like, Like, I wonder, like, where did that come from? How did Mother Nature come to that right there?
Well, you know, it's funny too, because this is nowhere near where hognose live, but it kind of has, it's just an extension of what they have.
Yeah, it's the same type of thing, but used in a very different way. You know, the hognose pug nose is actually used for digging. They actually use that to help dig dirt, whereas these guys are going to stay up in the trees, and this is going to essentially look like a little grub, so that a bird comes up, it's going to think, oh, there's a grub, I can eat it, come close to it, bam, and the snake is. So again, it is kind of that beautiful evolution, but again, I just think the color tone of that kind of little bit of blue.
The white is what does it for me, and it's only on like the first third of the snake, and I can't stop staring at it. You know, it looks like a jewel. So Brian, you know, we've looked at a lot of really colorful snakes, and you know, I think that everyone who lives in America kind of secretly wants an eastern indigo. You know, huge black colubrids, but you know, something I think a little bit more sensical. Something that makes more sense than that are these guys, these Mexican black kings.
You know, it's funny you say it. I always tell people that this is the poor man's indigo snake, you know, because you don't have to have permits. It's not going to cost you $500 or $1,000 or whatever they go for, and you have a snake that is almost just as cool. I mean, it looks just like an indigo, just doesn't get quite as big. Great producing animals. Big babies that eat frozen big pinkies right off the bat. They're just a win-win animal. I mean, and definitely if you're looking to add to a collection.
And not take up a lot of space. I mean, this is a pretty easy snake to keep.
It really is, and it's a winner.
I mean, this is what you would call, you know, almost like a 10-minute-a-week snake, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, this is an easy.
Yeah, just, you know, here's a couple fresh water, clean it up, here's some food. That's all you need, right?
You're done. Yep, that's easy bake.
And as far as heat,
you know, maximum maybe 80, 82 degrees. So that's what we keep them at, right around 80 degrees. We do keep a hot spot of about 87, 88 degrees in their in their cage. We feed 2 to 3 times a week, and if you have it as a pet, feed it once a week, no problem. Yeah. But as breeding, we're going to feed a little bit more, and simple animal, but absolutely gorgeous.
Stunning.
So Jason spent the entire day with me, a little bit of yesterday, and I think he's ready to become a real snake handling expert. And the only real way to tell if he can handle that responsibility is to let him jump into the fire with a king rat. Okay, here you go.
Oh. Not so bad, right?
You got it. All you have to do is get it back in the cage. You're all set.
Come on, buddy. Here we go. You want to go back
Don't
in?
cheat now.
Opa. Opa. He just looks like a cobra without, you know. Get in there.
Oh, look at that.
And you can have a great rest of your day. There we go. All right. Nice. Thank you for that surprise right there. That's first try, no warm-ups.
That was really good. I gotta be honest. He did a good job.
You're like, here's on the floor. Go ahead. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's always amazing to spend time with someone that shares a passion like me and Jason do for reptiles, and kind of just fuel that fire that he has. And I think it's amazing that Jason is also becoming a TV celebrity and can share that with the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed and learned some things while me and him were talking about it. Many cultures eat reptiles. What type of reptile is the most threatened by human consumption? If you said B, turtles, you're 100% correct. Good job.
What's going on, guys? Sam is at a wedding wearing a dress. You know, she's super stoked about that. So that means I get to do question of the week, something I've always wanted to do. So today you saw a lot of my picks, what I would take. What do you think I'm missing from this collection? What should I get? Leave a comment. I'm gonna check every single one.
So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I think it's an amazing opportunity for the world to see reptiles through another person's eyes. And as always, I was Facebooking and tweeting my way through it. So make sure to follow me over at SnakeBytesTV. Until next week, you've been watching Snake Bites.